What if I told you that the most powerful people in any room rarely say the most? That there's a language deeper than words, a silent psychology that commands respect, attention, and influence without you ever opening your mouth? Hidden in Nietzsche's darkest teachings are 6 laws that the powerful have known for centuries. Laws that don't require you to be loud, aggressive, or demanding. Just present. Just aware. Just unmistakably powerful. And today I'm going to show you exactly how they work. Welcome back. If you're here, you've felt it, that frustrating moment when someone with less knowledge, less skill, less substance somehow commands more respect than you do. You've watched people who talk the loudest get the attention while your contributions get overlooked. But here's what you haven't been told. Respect isn't earned through volume. It's earned through presence. Through the silent laws that govern human psychology at its deepest levels. Friedrich Nietzsche understood something most philosophers missed. He didn't just study ideas, he studied power. The psychology of influence. The hidden mechanisms that separate those who follow from those who lead. And buried in his work are laws that, when understood and embodied, transform you into someone who commands respect simply by existing in a space. These aren't manipulation tactics. They're not tricks or games. These are fundamental principles of human psychology that, once you see them, you can't unsee. And once you embody them, you can't help but radiate authority. Today we're uncovering 6 of these hidden laws. 6 principles that will change how people perceive you, how they respond to you, and how much respect they automatically give you, all without you saying a word. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button. This kind of knowledge doesn't appear on your feed by accident. Let's dive in. Hidden law number 1. The law of sovereign stillness. The first law is this: the one who needs nothing from the room controls the room. Nietzsche wrote about the will to power, not power over others but power over yourself. Mastery of your own impulses, your own neediness, your own desperate desire for validation. And here's what he understood. The moment you stop needing approval, you start receiving respect. Think about it. Watch people in any social setting. Most are performing. They're trying to be funny, impressive, likable. They're fidgeting, filling silence with nervous chatter, constantly adjusting their image based on others' reactions. Now think about the person who commands the most respect. They're usually still, composed. They're not performing for anyone. They're comfortable in silence. They don't rush to fill conversational gaps. They don't seek validation through constant engagement. This is sovereign stillness, the ability to be completely at peace with yourself regardless of external validation. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine a business meeting. Most people arrive with nervous energy, checking their phones, making small talk, fidgeting. They're broadcasting insecurity through micro-movements. But there's always one person who enters differently. They move deliberately. They sit, settle into themselves, and simply observe. They're not ignoring people, they're present. But they're not performing. Who gets the most attention when the meeting starts? Whose opinion carries the most weight? The still one. Always. Here's why. Stillness signals sufficiency. It signals that you're not looking to extract anything from the interaction. You're complete within yourself. And completeness is magnetic. Neuroscience backs this up. Mirror neurons in our brains cause us to unconsciously mimic the emotional states of people around us. When someone is anxious and fidgety, we feel it. When someone is calm and still, we feel that too, and we interpret it as confidence and power. Nietzsche called this self-overcoming, the ability to master your own nervous system. Most people are slaves to their anxiety. The psychologically powerful are masters of it. Practical application. For the next week, practice deliberate stillness in social situations. Before you enter any room, take 3 deep breaths. Once inside, resist the urge to immediately engage. Take a moment to settle into yourself. Notice your impulse to fidget, to check your phone, to fill silence, and resist it. Just be present and still. Watch what happens. People will start seeking your attention rather than you seeking theirs. Here's your reflection. When was the last time you felt truly comfortable in silence with others? What would it feel like to be the person who doesn't need anything from the room? Once you master stillness, you'll notice something interesting. People start watching you more carefully, wondering what you're thinking. That leads us directly to the second law, one that harnesses mystery as a source of power. Hidden law number 2, the law of controlled opacity. The second law, what remains unknown commands more fascination than what is revealed. Nietzsche was obsessed with masks. He wrote, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." Not because he advocated dishonesty, but because he understood that revealing everything about yourself makes you predictable. And predictability kills respect. Think about people you deeply respect. There's always something unknowable about them. Some depth you can't quite reach. Some mystery that keeps you curious. Now think about people who overshare, who tell you their entire life story within minutes of meeting them, who broadcast every thought and feeling on social media, who need you to know everything about them immediately. Where's the respect? Where's the magnetism? It evaporates. Here's the psychology. The human mind is wired to solve puzzles. When someone is an open book, there's no puzzle to solve. But when someone maintains controlled opacity, revealing carefully, strategically, meaningfully, the mind becomes obsessed with understanding them. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being selective about what you reveal and when. Let me give you an example. I once watched two people interview for the same position. The first candidate answered every question thoroughly, filled every pause with information, made sure the interviewers knew everything about their qualifications. The second candidate answered questions thoughtfully but concisely. When asked about their previous role, they gave a precise answer but didn't elaborate unnecessarily. They were engaged but not desperate to impress. Who got the job? The second candidate. The hiring manager later said, "There was something intriguing about them. I felt like there was more depth to discover." That's controlled opacity in action. Here's another angle. Oversharing is a status signal. High-status people don't need to explain themselves constantly. They're secure enough in their value that they don't feel compelled to justify their every thought and action. Low-status people, by contrast, over-explain. They justify. They seek approval through transparency. Nietzsche understood this instinctively. Much of his philosophy is deliberately cryptic, written in aphorisms that demand interpretation. He wasn't being difficult, he was creating depth. Practical application. This week, practice strategic silence. When someone asks you a question, answer it fully, but stop there. Don't over-explain. Don't fill the silence with additional justifications. Let your answer stand on its own. On social media, resist the urge to share every thought and experience. Post less but make what you post more meaningful. Create curiosity rather than satisfying it completely. And when people ask about your personal life, be warm but selective. "That's an interesting story for another time," is a powerful phrase. Your reflection. How much of yourself do you reveal too quickly? What would change if you shared half as much but twice as meaningfully? As you master stillness and mystery, you'll notice people leaning in, trying to understand you better. But there's something that multiplies this effect exponentially, a physical law of presence that most people completely ignore. Hidden law number 3, the law of deliberate movement. The third law, every movement either adds to your authority or subtracts from it. There is no neutral motion. Nietzsche wrote extensively about the body, about how philosophers ignore the physical as inferior to the mental, and how wrong they were. He understood that the body is not separate from the mind. It is the mind made visible. Every gesture, every posture, every movement broadcasts information about your inner state. And most people are broadcasting weakness without realizing it. Watch someone who lacks confidence enter a room. Their movements are apologetic. They make themselves smaller, they move quickly as if not to take up too much space, their gestures are contained and hesitant. Now watch someone who commands respect. Their movements are deliberate. They're not rushed, not frantic, not apologetic. They move as if they have every right to occupy the space they're in. Because they do. This is the law of deliberate movement. Every action should be intentional, complete, and unhurried. Let me break down specific examples. Hand gestures. Weak hand movements are small, fidgety, and constrained near the body. Powerful hand movements are expansive, deliberate, and complete. If you're going to gesture, complete the motion fully rather than half-heartedly. Walking. Most people shuffle or rush. They move reactively. Powerful people walk with purpose, not aggressively but deliberately. Each step is intentional. Eye contact. This is a movement too, where you direct your gaze. Weak eye contact darts around or avoids. Powerful eye contact is steady, calm, and held just slightly longer than comfortable. There's a concept from martial arts that applies here, mushin, or no mind. It's a state where action flows from centered awareness rather than nervous energy. Your movements become expressions of inner calm rather than reactions to external anxiety. I once observed a CEO in a high-stakes negotiation. She didn't gesticulate wildly or fill space with nervous energy. When she reached for her water, she did it slowly, deliberately. When she leaned forward to make a point, the movement was controlled and complete. Every action had weight. The other party was unconsciously reading those signals. This is someone who is in complete control of themselves. Therefore, they're probably in control of the situation. Practical application. For 1 week, make every movement deliberate. Before you stand up, pause for a breath. Before you gesture, make it intentional and complete. When you walk, imagine you're moving through water, steady, purposeful, unhurried. Film yourself speaking if possible. Watch your gestures. Are they anxious and contained or calm and expansive? Adjust accordingly. And here's an advanced technique. Practice the pause. Before you respond to anything, a question, a request, a situation, pause for 1 full breath. This creates a micro-moment of deliberation that transforms reactive motion into intentional action. Your reflection. If someone watched only your body language for an entire day with the sound off, what would they conclude about your confidence and authority? Now that we've covered presence through stillness, mystery, and movement, we need to address something more subtle. Something that happens in the space between people. It's the 4th law, and it determines whether people feel dominated by you or drawn to you. Hidden law number 4. The law of selective attention. The 4th law. Your attention is your most valuable currency. Spend it wisely and people will compete for it. Nietzsche understood value economics deeply. He recognized that what is scarce becomes valuable, and what is abundant becomes worthless. This applies to material goods, but more importantly, it applies to attention. In a world where everyone is desperate to be seen, heard, and validated, attention is the scarcest resource. And whoever controls their attention controls their power. Here's what most people do wrong. They give their attention freely, immediately, and desperately. Someone speaks and they immediately lock on. Someone enters the room and they immediately orient toward them. They're always available, always responsive, always attending. This seems polite. It's actually power suicide. When your attention is given freely and immediately, it has no value. When your attention is selective, given deliberately to what and who deserves it, it becomes precious. Watch high-status people carefully. They don't immediately turn when someone enters. They finish what they're doing, then acknowledge. They don't interrupt their own train of thought to respond to every stimulus. They choose where their attention goes. This isn't rudeness. It's sovereignty. Let me give you a concrete scenario. You're in a meeting. Someone makes a point. The person desperate for approval immediately perks up, nods enthusiastically, and responds. The person with sovereign attention finishes their thought first, takes a moment to consider, then responds thoughtfully. Which person's response carries more weight? The second one. Always. Here's the deeper psychology. When you give your attention too freely, you signal that your internal world is less important than external stimuli. You're reactive, not generative. When you give your attention selectively, you signal the opposite. Your internal world is rich enough that external stimuli must earn entry. There's another dimension to this. Where you direct your attention in social situations determines your status within them. Low-status people watch high-status people constantly, seeking approval and direction. High-status people are comfortable looking away, comfortable with their own thoughts, comfortable directing attention where they choose. Nietzsche would call this master morality versus slave morality. The master directs attention. The slave follows where attention leads. Practical application. This week, practice completing your thoughts before responding to external stimuli. If you're focused on something and someone speaks to you, take a breath, finish your thought, then acknowledge them. In conversations, resist the urge to fill every silence. Let pauses exist. Your comfort with silence signals that you're not desperately seeking connection. And here's a powerful technique. When meeting someone, don't immediately lock onto them with full attention. Acknowledge them pleasantly, but let your attention settle on them gradually rather than immediately. This subtle delay makes your full attention more valuable when you do give it. Your reflection. Do you give your attention away too freely? What would change if you treated it as your most valuable possession? We've covered how to carry yourself, how to create mystery, how to move with authority, and how to control your attention. But there's another element that ties all of this together. A deeper principle that governs how you respond to challenges, insults, and provocations. Hidden law number 5. The law of impenetrable calm. The 5th law, he who can be provoked can be controlled. Unshakable composure is unbreakable power. Nietzsche wrote, "The most spiritual human beings have the greatest self-control." He understood that true strength isn't physical or even intellectual, it's emotional. The ability to remain calm when everything around you is chaos. Think about every time you've seen someone lose their composure. Maybe they were insulted and lashed out. Maybe they were challenged and became defensive. Maybe they faced criticism and crumbled. What happened to their status in that moment? It evaporated. Now think about someone who faced the same provocations but remained utterly calm, who responded to insults with composed indifference, who met challenges with steady confidence, who absorbed criticism without defensiveness. That person's status rose, didn't it? Here's why. Emotional reactions are status signals. When you can be emotionally manipulated, you signal that others have power over your inner state. When you remain calm regardless of external provocation, you signal complete sovereignty over yourself. And self-sovereignty is the ultimate form of power. Let me tell you about a moment that crystallized this for me. I watched a senior executive get absolutely ambushed in a meeting, false accusations, personal attacks, the works. Everyone expected an explosion. Instead he paused, took a breath, and responded with measured calm. I appreciate you sharing your perspective. Let's examine the facts. Then he methodically addressed each point without a hint of defensiveness or anger. The room shifted. The attacker looked foolish. The executive's status soared. That's the law of impenetrable calm in action. Here's the deeper principle. When someone tries to provoke you, they're attempting to control you. Your anger, your defensiveness, your emotional reaction. These are victories for them. They've proven they can manipulate your internal state. But when you remain calm, you've proven the opposite. Nothing external controls you. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Nietzsche took this further. He argued that the most powerful people don't just endure provocations, they're genuinely unbothered by them. The insult doesn't even register as an insult because their sense of self isn't dependent on others' opinions. Practical application. This week, when you feel provoked by a comment, an action, a situation, pause before responding. Take 3 full breaths. Ask yourself, will responding emotionally serve me or control me? Practice the power phrase, "That's an interesting perspective," or "I'll consider that." These responses acknowledge without engaging. They maintain your composure while giving you space to respond strategically later. And here's an advanced practice. Deliberately expose yourself to minor irritations, a slow line, a rude comment online, a small inconvenience, and practice remaining internally calm. This builds your emotional immune system. Your reflection. What's one situation where you consistently lose your composure? What would it feel like to remain unshakable in that exact scenario? We've covered 5 powerful laws. But there's one final principle that integrates everything. A law about how you occupy space, how you exist in the world, that determines whether people unconsciously submit to your presence or unconsciously dismiss you. Hidden law number 6. The law of unapologetic existence. The 6th and final law. Those who apologize for existing will be treated as if they don't. This might be the most powerful law of all, and it's deeply rooted in Nietzsche's concept of life affirmation. Nietzsche despised what he called life-denying philosophies, worldviews that made people ashamed of their desires, their bodies, their very existence. He argued for the opposite, life affirmation, the celebration of existence, the refusal to apologize for taking up space in the world. And here's what he understood. The way you feel about your own existence determines how others treat your existence. Watch people who apologize for everything. Sorry to bother you. Sorry for taking up your time. Sorry for existing in your general vicinity. They're broadcasting a message, my presence is a burden. I don't deserve space here. And others unconsciously receive that message and treat them accordingly, as burdens to be tolerated, not as presences to be respected. Now watch someone who exists unapologetically. They don't apologize for taking up space. They don't minimize themselves to make others comfortable. They occupy their full existence without shrinking. This isn't arrogance. Arrogance is performing superiority. Unapologetic existence is simply refusing to perform inferiority. Let me give you a specific example. 2 people arrive late to a meeting. The first enters apologetically, hunched posture, whispered apologies, trying to make themselves invisible as they sit. The second enters calmly, acknowledges their lateness with a brief, apologies for being late, then sits without excessive explanation or groveling. Who maintains their status? The second person. They acknowledge the situation without diminishing themselves. Here's the psychological principle. Every time you apologize unnecessarily, you're training others to see you as someone who owes them something. You're creating a power dynamic where you're perpetually in debt. But when you exist unapologetically, not rudely but confidently, you establish yourself as an equal who deserves space. There's a concept from assertiveness training called legitimate presence. It's the recognition that you have as much right to exist in any space as anyone else. You don't need to earn that right. You don't need to apologize for it. It's intrinsic. Nietzsche would go further. He'd say that truly powerful people don't just accept their right to exist. They celebrate it. They embrace their will to power, their desires, their ambitions without shame or apology. I once worked with someone who transformed this law in front of my eyes. She had been a chronic apologizer, sorry for speaking up, sorry for taking up time, sorry for having needs. Then something shifted. She stopped apologizing for things that didn't warrant apology. She started stating her needs clearly. I need this resource to complete the project instead of sorry to bother you, but I was wondering if maybe possibly I could have. Within 3 months, her entire career trajectory changed. She got promoted. Her ideas were suddenly taken seriously. Not because she became aggressive, but because she stopped apologizing for existing. Practical application. For the next week, track every time you say sorry or apologize. Ask yourself, is this warranted or am I apologizing for existing? Replace unnecessary apologies with statements of fact. Instead of sorry to bother you, try, do you have a moment? Instead of sorry for taking up your time, try, thank you for your time. And practice occupying physical space without shrinking. Stand at your full height. Sit without making yourself small. Walk without trying to minimize your presence. Your reflection. How many times today have you apologized for simply existing? What would your life look like if you occupied your full presence without apology? There they are. The 6 hidden laws that command respect without saying a word. 1. The law of sovereign stillness. The one who needs nothing from the room controls the room. 2. The law of controlled opacity. What remains unknown commands more fascination than what is revealed. 3. The law of deliberate movement. Every movement either adds to your authority or subtracts from it. 4. The law of selective attention. Your attention is your most valuable currency. 5. The law of impenetrable calm. He who can be provoked can be controlled. And 6. The law of unapologetic existence. Those who apologize for existing will be treated as if they don't. These aren't tricks. They're not manipulation tactics. They're fundamental principles of human psychology that, when embodied, transform how people perceive and respond to you. But here's what's critical: you can't fake these. You can't perform them. They must become part of who you are. Nietzsche understood something profound. Real power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering yourself. When you master yourself, your nervous system, your attention, your emotional state, your very presence, others naturally respond with respect. Not because you've forced it, because you've earned it through self-sovereignty. So here's your challenge: choose one law. Just one. Commit to embodying it for the next 30 days. Not perfectly. Growth isn't about perfection. But consistently. Maybe it's stillness. Maybe it's selective attention. Maybe it's unapologetic existence. Pick the one that resonated most deeply and make it yours. Then watch what happens. Watch how people start responding to you differently. How they lean in more. How they respect your presence. How they treat your time as valuable. And once that law becomes natural, choose another. If this video opened your eyes to something you can't unsee, subscribe to this channel. We're building a community of people committed to psychological mastery and authentic power. Drop a comment below telling me which law you're committing to first and why. I want to hear from you. I want to know your journey. And if someone in your life needs to hear this, someone who's been overlooked, underestimated, disrespected despite their value, share this with them. Give them the gift of these laws. Remember, respect isn't given freely. It's earned through presence, mastery, and the silent language of power. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You just need to be the most composed, the most deliberate, the most sovereign. And now you know how. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, command your presence.